To promote my new flower shop, I had one place print my business cards, another print my brochures, and a third, my signs. Now my roses aren't red, my violets aren't blue, my geraniums look dead, and I don't know what to do.
Staples can help your business stand out with signs, banners, and brochures that are a true reflection of your company. And now at Staples, spend $50 or more on print and marketing services and get $5 off your next in-store purchase.
Now my business is blossoming, and I'm spending less green.
Exclusions apply. In-store only. Ends 6/23/18.
Good evening, everyone. It is Intentional Tuesday, one of my favorite days of the week. Hallelujah, hallelujah. I am just super excited today. Welcome to the Anointed to Prosper radio broadcast. I just believe that we are anointed to prosper. Scripture tells us, beloved. How about your God's beloved? Above all things, I wish that you may prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. But guess what? I believe that sometimes many of us are prospering in our soul, but we're not prospering in the natural stuff. So one thing that we do here on the Anointed to Prosper broadcast is that we marry the practical with the spiritual, which leads me to this. We're super excited about the guests we have on tonight. Awesome gentlemen that I believe that you're going to learn a lot from tonight. I'm excited. I know that I'm going to learn a lot from tonight, and I believe that we're going to realize that, we can prosper. We're going to learn about generational wealth. We're going to learn about those things that we just had question marks about or we just weren't certain about. So without further ado, I want to start by introducing our speaker for tonight, but I also want to give, after I introduce the speaker, I want to give a statistic before he dives in and give us a wealth of knowledge. So joining us on tonight, we have Mr. T.L. Priester, who is the CEO of Core Financial in the Metro Atlanta area. He is an insurance broker. He is a financial educator going out in the community, just hiring us to do better and be better from youth on up. And I would like to say that he's a philanthropist because he's doing this. He's sowing his time, he's sowing his talent, and he's sowing his treasure so that we can get to that place that we call our wealthy place. Or, a lot of times we like to say that knowledge is power, but I like to say that applied knowledge is power. So I believe that Mr. TL is going to show us is going to give us some knowledge. He's going to show us how to apply our knowledge. So, TL, are you on the phone, Mr. Priester? Star 1 to unmute your line. Pause just a second and give our speaker time to unmute and plug in. Okay, while we're waiting, Star 1 to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. I'm sorry about that. I was sitting in the queue. I didn't know how to get in.
Okay, not a problem. I was just starting to share a little bit, share the statistic, but we are super excited to have you on tonight. I just hearing your heart when you reached out about insurance and the things that you're doing in the community. I just don't see too many people that have the gift that's willing to go out and give it away and teach us things that we didn't learn in the textbook, or maybe teach us parents, or our parents didn't teach us. So my first question is, when I heard you wanted to bring people together, and it wasn't a competition of this is what I do or this is what you do, but the common goal was to build and help educate the community. So what triggered your passion for insurance, and how long have you been in finance?
Sure, yeah. I've been in insurance for about 15 years, and for many of those years I worked in corporate America. I worked with a lot of the big companies, Mutual of Omaha, Transamerica. I ran offices. I ran 2 offices here in Atlanta for a big company, and I just didn't see a huge focus on educating our community. It was all about the numbers. It was all about the sales. So about 5 years ago, I broke away and I started my own company, Core Financial, with the purpose of making sure that we had a focus on educating our community. And we connected with another venture I started a few months back called the Black Insurance Group, where we just kind of took that same concept and brought in other agents and agency owners so we can duplicate the efforts. I found that there's a lot of redundancy in our industry where there's a lot of one-man, two-man shops doing the same thing. And I was like, you know what, if we're all out there doing the same thing, why don't we come together, unite, and that way we can reach more people. So I think for me it was just a lack of education in our community. I would go out and I would sit with a client or a family or a business owner, and I was just blown away sometimes by the lack of understanding they had when it came to certain insurance products and services. I just say, you know, we need to do something different, and that's the genesis of me starting the organization and starting my own business.
Okay, awesome. What would you say is the biggest misconception about life insurance? I would think that the affordability, well, I can't afford it. I say, well, you can't afford not to have it. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I'm going to give you two, and you just hit on the first one, it's the cost. People think it's a lot more than it is. There was a survey I read a while back, and it said most people overestimate the cost of insurance premiums by 2 to 3 times more than they really are. So, you know, when I sit down with a lot of people, that's the first thing that they ask me, how much is it going to cost me? Because, you know, I don't think it's going to fit my budget. You know, I think it's going to be too expensive. And when we sit down and break it down, a lot of times it's a lot more affordable than people think. Now, there's different types of coverage you can get. I mean, there's, you know, your basic term, there's whole life, there's IULs, there's different ones. So, yeah, the premium can fluctuate, but the biggest misconception I get is the one you just hit on. I think it's too expensive. The second one that I get a lot of times is people think it's just for burial, right? So, you know, they say, well, you know, I'll save up money myself, or, you know, I'm not interested in talking about a funeral, or I have a funeral plan already. I got something worked out with my church or the local funeral home. And they think that it's only about burial, not understanding there's a lot more you can do with insurance outside of burial. Burial is just, you know, the bare basics of it. But we use it for so many things outside of burial. So the two that I get the most, the two biggest misconceptions are, you know, the one you hit on, cost, and second, you know, that it's only used for burial.
Okay. Can you explain to the audience the difference between group insurance and individual insurance, and what happens when someone transitions from a traditional job where the employer is the owner of the policy? I have that challenge a lot when talking about insurance. Oh, I have $200,000 on my job. And so can you speak to that for us?
Yeah, I can speak to this on several levels. You know, one on a personal level, because my mother's going through this. She's 3 years away from retirement. And she's now sitting down with her benefits coordinator. And, you know, I've been telling my mother this for years. You know, Ma, you need to look at another form of insurance. You know, what something may happen when you leave. We didn't know yet because, you know, she hadn't sat down with her exit coordinator yet. But I had seen this happen before here in Atlanta. A few years back, Delta cut a lot of its benefits. Delta is the airline, the big hub out of Atlanta here. And they cut a lot of their benefits. They cut vision, they cut dental, they cut some of the life insurance products. So, you know, I met a group of women that worked for Delta. They were Delta retirees. And, you know, we started having conversations on how this was impacting them because they had lost their coverage as retirees. And now a lot of these women were in their 60s and 70s, and some of them were uninsurable. You know, you have diabetes, or some of them had issues with their heart. And, you know, when we sat down to try to help get them coverage, either one, they couldn't afford it, because now here you are at 70-something years old, you know, trying to get whole life coverage because you can't qualify for term because of your age. And the premium was just astronomical. And then the other side of the group, they just couldn't get it because of health issues. You know, when it comes to insurance, the two things that buy it for you are your age and your health. If you get it when you're younger and healthier, it's going to be a lot cheaper than if you wait till you're older and possibly sicker. So in their situation, they had 2 strikes against them right out the gate. They were older. Some of them were unhealthy. So they had no coverage. And unfortunately, I got a call about 2 months ago that one of those women passed away, and she still was not able to obtain coverage and had to find alternative means to get her burial taken care of. And it was very sad to hear that, because there really wasn't anything that we could do to help get her covered, because she just could not afford the premiums that they were throwing her way at her age and with her health conditions. And then back to the story with my mother. Now she's finding out that her group policy, which she has at work, which most people don't understand that they have, when they're taking that money out of your paycheck every week or every 2 weeks, they're taking it out of the collective. So they've gone to an insurance company and they say, hey, we have 100 employees here. They get a reduced rate, they get a group rate, and they take that money out of your check and they pay the premiums for X amount of insurance for you. Well, when you leave, in most cases, that's either going to terminate or it's going to convert over to an individual policy. So now your premiums, in most cases, I've seen them go up 2 to 3 times than what you were paying. So, again, you're priced out of the market. So what happens is now you go out, and just like my Delta retirees, you're older, you're in retirement age, you're in your 60s, and now you're trying to qualify for a premium for coverage that's going to be a lot more than you were anticipating spending. And then, again, some situations, because of your health condition, you may not get qualified. You know, unlike health insurance, life insurance, you don't have to be guaranteed coverage. I mean, we had the whole thing with the Affordable Care Act where there were pre-existing conditions and there was a fight back and forth whether to cover people or not to cover people that were sick and how that was going to affect payment. It's not like that with insurance, with life insurance. With life insurance, your age and your health dictate the amount of coverage and the premiums that you're going to pay and what type of coverage that's available to you.
Wow. Awesome. I want to share something, and I want you to share your thoughts on this. I have a 26-year-old nephew, and probably about 3 years ago, he just turned 26 in December, I saw that he had a very alternative lifestyle in the streets, basically. Yeah. And so he's my brother's son, and I'm thinking my brother couldn't conceive. Hey, I asked him, well, do you have coverage on your son? And in his mind, I can't afford it. He's grown. He's going to get it. But I knew that at that time, my 23-year-old nephew couldn't conceive securing a policy. Well, in the city that I live in, there was just so much happening, so many shootings, just so many different things going on. I was really led to let me make sure that I insure my nephew, and I did. Fast forward, last year I began to get a little bit bitter. That's my honest testimony. Like, why am I paying for insurance for my family when they can afford it? But they just didn't think it was serious.
Sure.
And I let the policy lapse in April of 2017. And around August, I really began to just feel led. You know what? You better get it back. You better get it back. My nephew was shot 3 times in October. Thank God he survived, but 6 rounds, 3 shots, it could have been over.
Yeah.
I vowed that I would not do GoFundMe because I said if something happens to my nephew, people are going to look at 2 people. They're going to look at myself, and they're going to look at my siblings. But I feel a lot of times when we have someone that are in their 20s and because they're healthy or whatever, some parents may say, well, they're still young, I'm not worried about it, or they better pay for it themselves. But a lot of times they're just not focused on that. They've probably just started working or finishing college. But for me, literally when I got the phone call about my nephew, I had just got I was holding not the policy, but the premium. I had just got the mail at the mailbox where I had paid the quarterly premium. That premium was $16.77 per month for $100,000 in coverage. Just to speak to how inexpensive it is for someone who's 23 years old. And so, of course, I'm devastated. I don't know what's going on with my nephew, but I can tell you this. There was a woosah. I don't know what I'm going to see when I go to the hospital, but one less stress is worrying about what's next, the financial expenses.
Yeah.
So what I'm seeing a lot of, and I know you're seeing, and a lot of us are seeing, we're seeing a lot of GoFundMe. And I say that GoFundMe is not a replacement for life insurance. Can you just what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, GoFundMe, to me, speaks of lack of preparation in most cases. I love the idea of concept of people coming together to support, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get what you need. And there's tax implications, there's time frames on how long it's going to take you to raise the money, to get the money. It's just, to me, not really the most responsible way to plan for your burial. And again, in most cases, it's not planning. That's why you end up in that situation. And we've seen the progression of this. Back in the day, it was the churches. The churches would have benevolent funds and come together and take collections and do different things to help pay for the burial of uninsured members. Then we saw a rise in the special donation account set up at banks. When someone passed away, you watch the news and they'd be like, there's an account set up at Wells Fargo for you to, donate to the family. So we've kind of seen the progression to now where we are with the GoFundMe. But again, when I sit down with people, we never discuss setting up any type of future GoFundMe, account, because to me it just does not make sense. There's no guarantee there. And, you spoke to how you covered, did you say it was your nephew?
Yes.
Yes, I'm in the same boat. See, I have this conversation with people all the time. And, some people feel like, oh, well, I feel bad getting insurance on, my mom or so. To me, if you can, you should. I have insurance on my mother, and I had a conversation, hey, Ma, I love you. But I know my mother's financial situation, right? So she wants to leave things behind for her grandkids. And, she's put some things in place, but she wants to do more. So I said, you know what, I'll just get a life insurance policy. And boom, that's money that you can leave behind for the kids. And I did this years ago. So once again, like you say, the premiums are not as expensive as people think. But a lot of people don't want to have that conversation about you insuring them, because sometimes it brings guilt on them because they're not doing it. And then on the second hand, it's like they don't know how they feel about you doing something they should be doing for themselves. So, I do the same thing. Not only am I insuring my kids, but there's family members that I insure as well. I grew up in New York, and I still have a lot of family in New York, and I have a lot of family growing up in high crime areas, right? So, if we're honest, their chance of being gunned down or murdered in a crime is a lot higher than, the community I live here in Georgia. Not saying that, we can't have an accident or some other unforeseen incident, but, we have to look at those situations and say, hey, you know what? We need to make sure that they're protected, because there's a high possibility that something may happen to them. And instead of us waiting until that happens and everybody looking at each other to try to figure out how we're going to cover this, let's be proactive. And let's not just be proactive to say we're going to take care of burial. Let's make sure that we're leaving something to build a legacy in that person's name. If your nephew has kids, you want to make sure that we leave something for the kids. Or there may be something we want to do in that family member's name, like set up a scholarship or something. So, I think it's very important for us to be, proactive. I have a friend that has an agency in Chicago, and we know the murder rate of young black men in Chicago. He's doing campaigns to say, hey, you know what, why are you not insuring your sons? Why are you not insuring your nephews? Why are you not insuring these kids? Because a lot of these families are saying, we're only here because we can't get out. Now, we know we don't want anything to happen to our loved ones. We're not insuring them to be greedy and say, hey, I'm gonna benefit off of this. But at the same time, we have to look at, you know what, if we're in a situation where we know something may happen, why not be proactive and maybe use this benefit to change our situation moving forward, or change the situation of that person's child going forward. So, I wholeheartedly agree with what you're doing, because I do the same exact thing, and those are the conversations I have with my clients. It's not just about insuring you. If you can insure others, do the same to make sure that legacy continues.
Awesome. Can you help someone maybe on the line that one thing that I'm asked to do is come and participate in family meetings. I think that's a niche market that I'm trying to tap into. If someone wants to approach a family member about, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, do you have insurance? What does that conversation look like? or are you participating in some of those meetings to make it easier to where they can go to, hey, because I even ask siblings, find out if you're that responsible person in the family, 9 times out of 10 people are going to come to you. How would you, what is the approach? And I know that's a very open-ended question, but it's something that I get all the time. I don't even know how. My mom, she just doesn't want to talk about it. You know, he just thinks, my dad just thinks he's going to live forever. So what would you say to that person on the line that doesn't even know where to start? They're afraid, or don't worry about it, or I've heard people say, well, I'm going to be gone anyway. I'm not worried about it. And so when you have that family member that's stubborn like that and you know it's going to fall on you, what is that conversation like?
Yeah, those could be some very difficult conversations. You know, I've had children call me in and say, hey, we're going to pay for the premium. We just want to get the coverage. And, you know, I'm brought into situations to explain the benefit to the parent, you know, so they understand what the kids are doing. And I've been in some pretty contentious meetings. You know, I have some people that joke about it. You know, I've taken care of them. The least they can do is take care of me. You know, I had one guy tell me if they don't bury me because they love me, they'll bury me because of the smell. He was like, I don't want to talk about it. But, you know, I think a lot of times it's just having that initial conversation to express why you're doing what you're doing. You know, you don't want to, like I said, guilt the person and to feel like, hey, you're not being responsible, so we're going to, you know, do this for you. It's more so explaining to them this is why we're doing. You know, average cost of funerals, you know, they say hover around $10,000. Hey, Dad, you know, if you pass or something happens to you, it's about $10,000. We don't want you to have to, you know, worry yourself about paying a premium to get that taken care of. You know, we've come together and said, you know, we appreciate everything you've done for us, and this is one way we're going to honor you. We're going to make sure this is taken care of. And, you know, you're taking care of it, don't have to stress about that. So I think having that initial conversation so the parents don't think if you're trying to backdoor them or try to benefit off them. We have a lot of distrust in our community. So if you can diffuse that by having the conversation up front, I found that 9 times out of 10, it makes that situation a lot easier to deal with. Now, if you bring me in and you haven't talked to the parent, or the person you're trying to insure, and you just bring it on them, then those are when the meetings get heated. But if initially they've already had that conversation, a lot of times that diffuses the situation so it doesn't get to that boiling point. Another thing people have to understand is there's also insurer interest. A lot of times, if you do it right, there's minimal input from, you know, the individual you're trying to insure. If it's a parent, that's an insurable interest, so you don't have to get them involved in the whole process. So the way a lot of companies work now with e-apps or phone, you know, apps and things like that, the process is very simple. It's not like some of the older ways we used to have to go through underwriting where you have to go out and get blood and urine and all that kind of stuff. The process is now very simple. You know, typically within 5 minutes, you're going to know if that person can get coverage. All they're going to do is get their medical list and run it through the MIB and see if, you know, they qualify or not. So, you know, the things that I found that help is have that conversation up front, let them know why you're doing what you're doing. And secondly, understanding that you do have rights as an insurable, with that individual, because it's an insurable interest to make sure that they're taken care of. So, you know, that makes the process a little easier too. But if you don't, like I said, if you call me in just for that meeting when, you know, we're ready to sign paperwork or get them on the phone, that's usually not a good look. That's usually when things get heated. So trying to diffuse that situation, I found is typically the best way to deal with it.
Wow. I love it. I love it. What can you know, one big thing that I want to talk about is, you know, earlier you said that one of the myths is that insurance is just for burial. But can you tell us, it's a 2-part question, how do we leverage life insurance? One of my favorite scriptures is a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. I personally believe that life insurance can be a vehicle. And so can you tell us how can we leverage that? And then the second part of the question, which is totally unrelated, the second question, it's not a 2-part question, I'm sorry, would be if you could tell us about key person insurance, because I think sometimes the African-American community hasn't tapped into that.
Right.
and what that looks like. So how can I leave an inheritance? I'm a single mom, my daughter's 19. I don't want her to struggle. And so
right.
I'm still in a corporate job. I do have individual insurance. I do feel that the age of my child, she's not ready for the amount of coverage that I have. But I understand my explanation is if you got $10,000, you have liability. If you have enough to pay off your house, your bills, and that extra cushion, you got full coverage. So how do we leave an inheritance? How do we leverage life insurance? Not just for inheritance, but however you see that we can leverage it and use it for our benefit, for our kids, for our families.
Right. Let me share a personal story on how I've seen life insurance impact 3 generations in my family. My grandmother passed a few years back. My grandma passed at the age of 93. She was born in 1918. So for my grandmother's generation, getting life insurance was for burial was very important to them. And if you look back at the times, you can understand why. During slavery, we weren't able to bury our loved ones. We weren't able to give them proper burial, right? So, you know, there was that. Then after slavery, the white insurance companies and the white funeral homes didn't cover our communities. So we created in our own communities what we call burial societies. And what burial societies were is the communities came together and they pooled their money. And when somebody in the community died, they would take that money and they would pay for their burial. That's where some of our black insurance companies and black funeral homes were birthed out of. So for my grandmother's generation, it was key. It was very important for them to have that coverage for burial, right? Then a few years after, unfortunately, we unexpectedly lost my aunt to cancer. So this is generation 2. My aunt was part of that baby boomer generation where they were a little more financially tuned. So not only did she leave money behind for her burial, that generation understood that it was also important for them to help set up the next generation financially. So with the policies that she left behind, it paid for her burial, but she left her daughter enough money that she was able to buy a home, pay off her student loan, buy a vehicle, travel, and still be sitting nice, right? So that's generation 2. Now, my cousin, she's older. She's about 30 now. She has a 2-year-old daughter. And, you know, we already set her up with her burial. We've already set her up with money for her to leave behind for her daughter. Now we're working with life insurance to create income for now and for her retirement. So life insurance is a tool. The key and the power comes when you learn how to use it. So in that situation, that scenario right there, we've seen life insurance used for burial. We've seen it used for legacy. And we've also seen it used to create income. So the tools are there. It's just we have to make sure we educate people on how to use them. Again, a lot of people, the misconception, you know, it's just for burial. I share this story with people all the time. No, it does so much more. And I see how my cousin has benefited from, you know, the understanding of her mother. So it went from my grandmother going back in 1918 just getting coverage because she knew that they had to get burial because there may not be many other options for them, to her daughter saying, you know what, we're going to take it a step further, to her daughter now taking it a step further. So it's a tool that we just have to learn how to use. So there are specific products. Every situation is different. But, I mean, there's products out there, there's whole life. There's cash value products, you know, whole life insurance or IUL products that you can use to take cash. You could take that cash product out to pay for certain things, whether it be college or home or different things. IULs is a whole life product that has an investment component built in. So, you know, when you sit down with your agent, you have to let them know what your goals are, and then they can match you up with a product to accomplish that. Because there's even term products. You know, we talk about, you know, some people are against term products because, you know, they don't build cash value and they only last for a specific time. But for some people, that's the perfect product. I have a lot of young people that are buying homes who will get a 30-year decreasing term policy that if something happens to one of them, the house is paid off. So in those policies are dirt cheap. I mean, you may cover a $200,000 home, you know, for maybe $20 a month. And then if something happens to you or your partner, that house is paid off. So that's one less thing they have to worry about. So there are a lot of ways that you can use or leverage life insurance to create income or create wealth. It's just about making sure you're having those conversations when you sit down with the rep to let them know what your intentions and your goals are and coming up with a plan. Instead of just saying, hey, I want burial, we have to have those conversations with people to say, yeah, we can help you do that, but there's so much more we can do.
Awesome.
And your second question,
what about,
repeat that. What was the second question you asked me?
Key person insurance. I think it would be a tragedy if, I would say, two caterers are in business and they're 50-50. And I'll give you another scenario. Pastors, for example. When I think of key person insurance, I think of the pastor as a key person in the church.
Yeah.
And I think of, it's not common knowledge of can you tell us what is key person insurance? And I would think of, the church is able legally to get a policy on the pastor, and that could, it could be a $500,000 policy, it could be a $200,000, and it can go to outreach or pay off the building and things like that. I know that's an example of key person insurance, but how important is that? And do you see a lot of that happening in the community? And what is the primary? Is it a primary area of business? Is it the church? Is it the mosque? Where are you seeing a lot of key person insurance used? Or first of all, can you tell us what it is? And then second, how are you seeing it used?
Sure. Yeah, Keyman Insurance protects a business or organization if the individual who's responsible for most of the happenings or the care of that business or organization, if something happens to them. They're a key member of keeping that organization afloat. Like you said, in the church is going to be the pastor. If something happens to him, then, that can leave the church exposed without leadership and other things in place. So what that does, again, we're talking about insurable interest here. The church could take out a policy on the pastor, that's the insurable interest, because he is the key person that keeps that business or organization afloat, okay? So what happens is, you sit down and you discuss what amount you want to have for coverage and what you want it to accomplish, whether it be, hiring a replacement or, starting some type of program in the pastor's honor or paying off the building. Whatever it is you say you want to do, you find out what that amount is, and that's the policy you buy for it. That is a conversation we're starting to have a lot more with a lot of small businesses. Small businesses are defined by a business of 500 people or less. To me, that's a big business. You got 500 people. But I think statistics say that 90-something% of businesses are less than 5 people, right? So in those small businesses, Keyman policies are very important because if you're working with 3, 4, 5 people, everybody has an equal amount of weight to carry. And if one person goes down, that could be the end of a business. I mean, if you have a tech company and your lead programmer goes down, that could be the end of your business. If you have a catering business and, the lead cook goes down, that could be so having a Keyman policy makes sure that the business can continue to function until you replace that business, and it also gives you time to figure out what you're going to do in the absence of that person. When it comes to life insurance, the reason it's important to have adequate coverage is because most experts say you should not make any major financial decisions within 6 months of you losing someone, okay? Because in that point, you're in the grieving process. You're not thinking about business. You're not thinking, with financial sense. You're dealing with the grief of losing a loved one. Whether that be on a personal level or on a business level, it's still the same. Now, business may have a contingency plan in place that, helps them to handle the business side of it while grieving, but most individuals don't. So what we do is we're having those conversations with people to make sure that contingency plan is in place, and churches need to have it as well. We talked to a few churches about that. What is the succession plan if, the pastors, if something happens to the pastors? They're, an assistant, that's going to step up and take over the church, or you're going to look, outside where you're connected to another church, or they're going to send somebody over. So having that plan in place makes it a little easier to have the discussion on how that needs to look. Because if there's, a succession plan where there's somebody in-house, you may need less coverage to take care of the salary issue or the transportation issue or the transition issue. You just may want to say, you know what, we want to build something in honor of that pastor. We want to start a foundation or a scholarship or something. So, I keep going back to this. It's about having those initial conversations about what the goals are and then building a plan around that. But succession plans and, Keyman policies are becoming more and more popular. They used to be big for a lot of the big businesses, even though they had, plans in place. But for the small businesses, I found it more detrimental if they did not have something in place when that person went down. Because truth be told, a lot of small businesses are barely afloat. And, a lot of small business owners I meet, they're spending money out of their own pocket. And I'm not talking about profits from their business. I'm talking about they're spending, they're taking money from other places to keep the business afloat. So now you lose that key person, most businesses are going to fail if that happens. So having that policy in place is very important.
Wow, thank you for that, because I think that that's something a lot of times I believe some agents or brokers may focus a lot on individual insurance, but what I love about what you're doing and your passion is that you're educating us, not just writing and transacting business, but you're educating so that we know, because we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
But thank you so much for all the information you're giving. So I want the listening audience to know, what else do you do and how can we reach you? Is there a page on social media? What is your number? If someone wants, how can we reach you? Let us know.
Sure. On Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, you can reach us at Core Financial, and that's Core with a K, K-O-R-E, Financial. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all on that. Our website is corefi.com. We're in the process of doing some revamping on there because we just added a few things to our services, but that's corefi.com. Office number is 44996-4279. And you can reach me at tpriester, Priester, at corefi.com.
Okay. And could you just repeat that number again for us?
Sure. 404-996-4279.
Okay. And Mr. Priester, outside of being a broker, can you tell us some other things you do? Because I'm certain, I know that you're passionate about education, but maybe it is not a direct insurance transaction. Someone may be interested in some of the other things that you do in the community.
Yeah, when I launched Core, we've been in business for about 5 years now. Our focus was life insurance. We were educating our community on the benefits of life insurance. But after meeting, a lot of my clients, I see that, a lot of people in our community are looking to build small businesses. We have a lot of entrepreneurs in our community. We have a lot of small business owners. So what I started doing is we expanded our product portfolio to start working with entrepreneurs and small business owners. And we developed some programs to help people, get funding for their entrepreneur endeavors. We've also, set up a program that helps people, make sure their business is legitimate. A lot of us are running businesses that aren't completely legitimate. Again, I love to hustle, but, you have to have a business license. It benefits you to have a business bank account. So we set up some things to help them there. We focus on insurance. We've branched out to we branched out to entrepreneurship, and now we've just added financial literacy. That's a big component. We do some education in the public schools here in Atlanta where we teach our young people about the importance of, financial literacy. A lot of times we find with our young people, they're taught two things when it comes to money, how to make it and how to spend it, but there's so much more to money that they're missing. It's a tool. Just like life insurance, money is a tool. The power comes from learning how to use it. So we teach them about investment strategies and credit and taxes and different things like that. So our focus is insurance, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're excited that you were able to be with us this evening. I'm certain with all you have going on, your schedule is super, super busy. I want to just pause for a moment and open up the line for questions. So if anyone has a question, if you want to press *1 to unmute your line, *1. And we can ask Mr. Priester a question. This part always takes a moment, Mr. Priester, getting the *1.
Sure, no problem. I struggled myself doing that when I got on, so I definitely understand.
Okay, any questions? We're going to do *1, and so we're just going to give a few more seconds, and we're going to move on if there are no questions. Well, I wanted to definitely thank you for coming on, and I wanted to just recap the things that Mr. Priester was sharing. One big thing is most of you know, the listening audience, is that I'm in finance as well and that I love financial literacy. And so one thing that I want to share is that iron sharpens iron. And so even hearing Mr. Priester talk, I learned and I gleaned from his knowledge. And don't be afraid to reach out and see, what he has to offer, the huge portion of entrepreneurship. We want to be in business for real. I say a business without structure, is just a hobby. And not just transact in a business, but connect with someone such as Mr. Priester that can educate you on and is going to be truthful with you on that there's truly a 2-year contestability period with any policy, or educate you on different things out there. So we want to definitely support people that are going to give us knowledge. The word tells us that we perish for the lack of knowledge. So I just wanted to say kudos to you, Mr. Priester. I'm excited about what you're doing in the community in the Atlanta area. It's always exciting to see someone with that zeal and that passion to go out and teach and to educate. And when you reached out regarding connecting on insurance, I just immediately, my spirit just agreed and said, you know what, I can do this. I want to be a part of this, whatever it is, in whatever capacity, and serve, because I do have a passion for just serving and connecting and educating. So I'm super excited about that. And so we're going to close out. I want to share about something that I have coming up. On June the 2nd in Atlanta, Georgia, or I'll say a suburb of Atlanta, Georgia, Morrow, Georgia, I am hosting a Marketplace Ministry Summit. It's going to be super, super awesome. I believe that sometimes when we're in ministry, church, the mosque, wherever we are, we get caught up in that calling. This is my assignment. But the word tells us that our gifts make room for us and bring us before great men. So the Marketplace Ministry Summit, the host is I'm actually collaborating, I'll say that, with a host out of New York. Her name is Pastor Belinda Imona. And we are going to just have a grand time with sharing about what we can do and use our gifts in the marketplace. Even as we heard Mr. Priester talk about, he's a broker, he's doing these things and getting business in order. And so at the Marketplace Ministry Summit, you will learn about the business of business. So we'll have different speakers. Dr. Renee Sunday, anesthesiologist, will begin to talk about be seen, be heard, get paid. She also has about an anesthesiologist by day, but definitely by night. She's a platform builder or in her life and uses media, TV and radio. And just on her platform, this is actually the Good Deeds Network to get the word out, because when we have a vision, when we have a mission, we want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we want to get paid. Also on the platform, we have Tangi Henry. Tangi Henry is a life coach. She's also in the medical field as well. She will begin to teach us about, she's a personal trainer, to be fit for your assignment. I know many of us may know that if we're going to go, we're going to be in business, we need to be fit and take care of our temple. I myself will begin to talk about legacy and inheritance, representing I Know My Values. We have Deirdre Sullivan. Deirdre Sullivan is on the John Maxwell team. Her business is Intentional Me. She's going to talk about her background as a human resources, and she'll talk about being intentional and how to build a team. And so it's important that we don't always just try to do things ourselves, but we connect and we collaborate and we have the right people in the right position. We'll have Terry and Cam who will lead us in worship, which I'm super, super, super excited about. We'll have Magdalene Harvey, who is a PMP. She's a PMP instructor. She teaches executives. She does church planting. And so she'll talk about that order. I also have a little bit of project management, so I understand how doing things decent and in order will work. And then if you're thinking about getting PMI, which is Project Management Institute certified, she's definitely someone that you want to talk to. And so just tons of people with a wealth of knowledge. The person that's hosting I Emancipate Me, Pastor Belinda, by trade, she's in the legal field. Now once practiced law. Now cybersecurity is her focus. She builds websites and things of that nature. So she's a pastor. She's cybersecurity. She's just a different hats, just to say that we can have many gifts and begin to marry them together. So I'm excited. Again, June 2nd in Morrow, Georgia. It's going to be at Clayton State University. The website is iemancipateme.com/Atlanta. Check it out. Look at the vision. Register. You definitely can't get that. I just don't think you can get the quality of people in the room that's willing to just give the information for the price. So we're excited. Bring a college student, bring a millennial, bring someone, and we know that you're going to get something out of it. And I will post Mr. Priester's information on my page. You can look on my values so that you can make sure that if you have any questions, you can reach out. You need any products, you can reach out to him. I'll send more information about the summit. And so, Mr. Priester, I just want to thank you. I appreciate you. I'm going to send you some information about the summit. I didn't tell you about it, but I'll make sure that I get you some information. But I'm just excited about the connection. I believe that we'll continue to keep in contact. Now, sir, do you do other products besides life insurance?
Yeah, it's primarily focused on life insurance, and like I said, now we've expanded a little more into entrepreneurship and financial literacy. We're putting out a curriculum for that here by the end of the summer. So, we'll have more information on that forthcoming, and also in the process of writing a book about financial literacy. So hopefully we'll have that out by the end of the year.
Awesome. Well, we're not going to hold you any longer. We're going to go ahead and sign off. Listeners, thank you so much. Again, you can go to I Know My Value page on Facebook. You can find Mr. Priester's information. Again, his page is Kore, Kore Financial. You can also find them on Instagram under the same name, Kore Financial. And please plug in, please reach out, please support. We are signing off. Thank you so much. We are anointed to prosper. Good night.
Motivation with Amazon Music.
You're still in bed? Didn't you go running?
Oh, I overslept. I'll go tomorrow. I'm getting in the shower.
Alexa, set an alarm for 5 a.m. tomorrow to hard rock music.
Okay, I'm up.
The right song exactly when you need it. Amazon Music, the simplest way to listen to the music you love. New customers start your 30-day free trial at amazonmusic.com. Renews automatically, cancel anytime. Motivation with Amazon Music.
You're still in bed? Didn't you go running?
Oh, I overslept. I'll go tomorrow. I'm getting in the shower.
Alexa, set an alarm for 5 a.m. tomorrow to hard rock music.
Okay, I'm up.
The right song exactly when you need it. Amazon Music, the simplest way to listen to the music you love. New customers start your 30-day free trial at amazonmusic.com. Renews automatically, cancel anytime.